Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 110, 110, 110, 110. Sounds weird. Sounds like a binary code. I don't know why. We're 2 seconds in and I'm already confused. Anyway, today we have a vet coming on the podcast, a good friend of mine, which is always quite exciting to do. But before we introduce him, I would advise there's some other episodes of the R2Kast that have come out recently and coming up soon to watch. So the last episode, we spoke to Amy Budge of Bigton Farm, was on This Farming Life. Yes, This Farming Life, from Shetland. So that was quite a cool chat. One islander speaking to another one, but very much more out of the way place to farm on. It's quite an interesting chat. The next episode will be 111, which will be the third instalment of the R2Kast All In, with a guy, and I'm going to get his surname wrong because it's very hard to say, Glenn Penlington, I think, who is the current British timber sports champion. He's competed at Worlds. So that's going to be fun. Anyone that is a fan of World's Strongest Man and that sort of thing will know who Eddie Hall is. He was on Eddie Hall's YouTube channel last week, so that was why I originally got in touch. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I can't wait to hear his story, but I do also want to know what Eddie Hall was like. But enough about the future episodes of the past episodes. Today we've got John Hamilton. John, would you like to say hello?
How are you going, Wallace? Thanks for having me on today.
No, very much looking forward to it, mate. Very much looking forward to it. It's actually quite fun when like with this podcast, you're speaking to everyone and anyone, but when you speak to someone you know quite well, it's always like, I wonder what I'm going to find out. It's not just sitting having a beer or playing golf with them. It's quite an interesting thing to try. Just before we get started with another episode of the R2Kast, I would like to thank our primary sponsors, A-Plan Rural. A-Plan Rural are heavily involved on the social media scene in the ag space with 120,000 followers on Instagram. They use this following to host social media takeovers with farmers throughout the country to showcase their stories. They also post to their rural community blog with further stories about these people in the industry. On top of this, they like to support initiatives that are championing the British agricultural industry, such as myself. So thank you to A-Plan Rural for that. I do have to mention one thing that everyone listening won't notice anyway, and those watching on YouTube might see as they go along. I can't help but notice that John is currently drinking from 3 different things. He's got 2 different coloured glasses and a mug.
Oh, I've got a nice cup of tea that I made myself, and then I was working earlier, and I'd got another glass of water, and I've got 2 glasses of water. So I've got 2 half-full glasses of water. Yeah. I
was just wondering if the life of a vet, you've just got butlers dropping off a new drink every 2 minutes.
I know there's one just sitting at the table, and I was like, I gave him a glass of water, and I was like, I better finish that last one. So very, very observant of you, yeah.
Yeah, it's
just embarrassed me from the start.
You did. I did ask you at the start if you were going to listen to it, and you said we'll see how the first few minutes goes. But I'm sure
that's it. Just delete podcast.
That's it. So John, give us a bit of background on yourself. What was a young John Hamilton doing? Where was he, and what was the plans?
So I grew up on a beef and sheep farm just outside Darvel in Ayrshire. So grew up there with my mum and dad and my 3 younger brothers. Dad kind of ran quite an extensive sheep enterprise with a couple of hundred suckler cows as well. So got quite stuck into that from a young age. Really enjoyed working at home, but also I think growing up knew as much as I loved it, wasn't going to be the kind of life for me. Always quite enjoyed more other academic stuff as well. Decided from quite a young age I just probably kind of wanted to go down the kind of vet route. And then just with I love working with livestock, and then just managed to get the grades at school, kind of followed that route to university. And farming wise, like as much as great, love working with livestock, I am a hazard in a tractor, have no practical ability at fencing or anything else like that with my hands. So out with the livestock side, there's not much I can probably really do that's that useful. So going down the veterinary route probably suited me fine.
In your defence, it was a suckler farm though, so I mean, you know.
It's caused quite a lot of damage probably growing up, to be honest. I probably didn't get I wasn't really in tractors that much after a point because a few wing mirrors poshed off and a few gates bent. So
it's quite funny when you say about fencing. Whenever I go home to my mum and dad's farm, like Dad will have a bit of fencing that's needing done, but he always say like, oh, well, it's you come and knock the stabs in. You'll never trust me to do any more.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a big person, you'll hit things, don't do any more.
My grandpa unfortunately had a fencing company, which my dad trained as. So my dad's fencing ability is quite a high standard. And he was a bit of a perfectionist. And then you'll know Craig as well was a bit of a perfectionist at home. So my squint attempts at putting fences up quite often, they didn't go down that well. So,
well, if my dad's listening, I'm sure he'll put himself in the perfectionist line as well. Yeah. He's hearing me say that and he's telling me to shut up, because that is definitely not the case. But anyway, I do sort of sympathise with you on that side of things. It's quite common for youngsters on farms and certainly around animals want to get involved in veterinary when they're older.
Yeah.
But there's been quite a theme on this podcast. I mean, I've had a few vets on across the time, but there's quite a theme that is the desire and they just can't get it. Because, I mean, you got those grades, but I think even you'll accept they're not easy to get.
No.
Did you just put everything into it, or were you one of those folk that sort of did all right anyway? Or
no, I probably did put a lot of effort into it, to be fair. I kind of knew that I wanted to go down. To be honest, as much as I wanted to be a vet, there was actually points growing up I did think about medicine as well. And then as I got older, I kind of realised I just was more natural working with animals than I was with humans. Yeah. So that I did really probably work quite hard 4th, 5th year at school, just to get those grades. And then it just happened from there. And to be honest, once I got into university, it was probably the best thing I did. I loved vet school, and once I got there, actually, the kind of hard work was worth it. Yeah. It really did kind of, for me, pay off. Veterinary is kind of a weird career, it's not for everyone, and it's similar enough to farming where there is that lifestyle aspect of it. There's a lot of on-call, long hours, but for the right person, for me, it's been great. I love the variety, love seeing different farms, and it's been good so far.
Just before we get into sort of life as a vet side, can you tell us a wee bit more about the farm at home?
Yeah, so, Craig, who I think you went to college actually with. He's back home full time now. So, it's on quite an extensive system. We have a lot of hill ground where we'll lamb off, and then we'll kind of lamb a lot of hogs, which they'll lamb at foot. So there'll be, quite a big number of sheep. And then we've changed quite recently from a kind of continental cow to a kind of lynn cow, which we're kind of doing a lot more outwintering, kind of calving some indoors, and then get them out quite early. And there's we've got a kind of poultry enterprise as well, which Craig's kind of been quite key part of, which is kind of diversified the farm, if you like, away from the kind of traditional beef and sheep, to have that kind of extra income as well. So it's great getting back home. I love going home at weekends, but it's the same kind of working with family, and it's nice getting away from it at the same time as getting involved. So it's it's the veterinary side allows, it gets a variety. You see different people. Every day is different. As much as I love the kind of farming side of it, I think being at home every single day of my life, I think I would struggle. I kind of like that variety and getting about.
I was the same, actually. Obviously went to a different thing, but I was the same in that thing. The working with family is an interesting one. It's for some folk completely, and for some folk, I knew if and my dad will listen to this, if my dad in particular and I worked together further, it wouldn't have worked, but we get on great when we don't. And I get one with everyone at home, no problem at all, but they'll probably say I'm maybe quite difficult to work with at times. So absolutely.
Every family's the same.
Two-way thing, 100%, absolutely. What was the reason for jumping to lynns?
I think it was very much probably work-wise. The sheep numbers were probably going up at the time, and then we knew the kind of poultry side was coming as well. The Continentals probably took quite a lot of work, kind of high input for what you're getting out, and quite high costs associated with them as well. Whereas the lynn cow works really well in terms of run them outdoors, run them very cheaply. You're still getting a good end product. Can even cross with the Charlie or the Simmental Bull. Easy calving, take a lot less work, and they're actually probably quite nice natured as well to work with. So I think for us it's worked really well. And I think even down here we've seen a lot of change towards the natives rather than the Continentals. A lot of kind of easier calving cows. I think farms having kind of less workers around, less kind of manpower. I think the kind of native cow works really well just in terms of looks after itself. Calves get up from a young age and work really well. And whereas the Continental, they can have their problems associated with them. Harder calvings, cesareans, maybe the vet's involved a bit more. And then it's even getting calves to suckle and stuff can be much more difficult. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And do you know the poultry thing? I think you'd mentioned that to me at one point, but I didn't think I fully knew. Is that layers or broilers?
So they are broilers, but they're sort of grandparents, if you like, of broilers.
Okay.
So it's almost a kind of breeding policy where you're kind of breeding for genetics rather than anything else.
Yeah.
So they're kind of looking for kind of higher welfare but quick growing kind of chickens, and then they come in as day old chicks, and then they're basically reared to the stage where they're laying eggs, and then eggs go down to a hatchery and go to other farms. So we're just kind of a central point for breeding, if you like.
Oh, excellent! I didn't know that. I genuinely didn't know that. How long's that been happening for?
It kicked off, I think, when it's probably 2019 it kind of started. Right. I think it was the first year, that may be wrong. I think it'd been started 2020, yeah. It was just after I started working down in Lockerbie, so yeah.
Because Craig worked for Aviagen, didn't he?
He did. He worked there for a couple of years. He was kind of production manager there for a couple of years after he left college, and then he went home after that when the poultry stuff kicked off. So yeah, he's feeling involved with that.
Excellent. I would ask how the last year's been for them, but it's been a pretty tricky year for poultry, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been.
Yeah. So I always like to hear about vet school. I don't know why. I think off the top of my head, Kate Rowell, Kaz, Straharchik, and Hazel Mullins are three that I proper interrogated about vet school because it just sounds intense. Tell us about your time at uni.
Probably if you start off, it's quite intense socially. There's so many social aspects going on in vet school. It's vet school's a bit of a bubble at university where the campus. I was at Glasgow University, and the campus just sits outside the city of Bearsden. So it's just you're a wee bit away from the main university, and then there's vet socials, vet clubs, vet sports. So you're in a bit of a bubble just with other vets, and then the social life's really good at the start. And then you eventually get into quite intense studying and very hard exams probably as well. First year exams were a massive shock to the system. We came off school, we always felt hires and advanced hires were really hard. And then I felt first year was I scraped through the first year, it was just a different level from what we had at school. But then you kind of get used to that, and then you can get your way through it. But vet school itself, there was some great stuff. Glasgow, we had we'd sport day every year where we played Edinburgh at different sports. So we'd rotate every year between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and it was really intense, really competitive. But the night out afterwards was really good. So I played quite a bit of football and rugby doing that, and it was great. When you got the win, it was such a good win, to get over Edinburgh. It was so good. And of course, there's only two vet schools in Scotland at the moment. It is a very competitive nature between the two. So it's
that actually is a question I'm quite interested about. There is two at the minute, but soon to be three. Is that a good thing?
Controversial.
Okay. I've heard, yeah.
I think an extra vet school is beneficial. It's just the problem is how it's funded. So at the moment, the funding looks like it'll probably just come away from Glasgow and Edinburgh. So rather than solve, what our issue is at the moment, probably in Scotland rather than the rest of the United Kingdom, is obviously we get kind of free tuition at university. Mm-hmm. That's funded by the Scottish government. Glasgow and Edinburgh Vet School at the moment will subsidise that by having a lot of foreign students coming in. So a lot of American students, Canadian students who pay extortionate fees compared to what we pay, massive amounts. So when we felt that we were going for university every year, there was more and more American students, which is fine. But then you got to the stage when we were finishing, more than half the year were from America and Canada. The worry with that is if there's less funding going to those universities, it just pushes the problem where they have more foreign students and less Scottish. So you're even though we've got an extra university, the actual end product might be the same. And then you've got a dilution of the talent in terms of lecturers who are actually at a university. I know there's a few from Glasgow went to the new one at SRUC. So you're pulling resources away from the universities already and diluting it a wee bit. At the same time, there's a shortage of vets at the moment, and that is one way of addressing it by having our university. And I think having a university more focused on agriculture as well, which I think SRUC and Aberdeen is aiming for, will be beneficial. So I think there's definitely two sides of it. It's not a perfect answer. There are some people really against it. Some people think it's a great idea. I can see both sides, to be honest.
That is why I asked, because I've spoke to some vets, and you say about Aberdeen, and they're like, not want to speak about it. And then some folks see benefits. But
yeah, I think quality is a big thing. I think Glasgow and Edinburgh are two of the oldest vet schools in the world, and they're both very highly ranked every year in the world, like the world rankings, if you like. When we were there, Glasgow was number one at one point, Edinburgh was number one at one point, and that's great to have on our doorstep. It's keeping that level there. Definitely when we were at Glasgow, there seemed to be a bit of a squeeze on funding with stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's a hard one, because I say you want more vet students coming through, but if a new vet school means less students coming through Glasgow and Edinburgh, that's a worry as well.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah, yeah, no, it's an interesting one. The sort of going back to what was involved, is there like a project throughout, and also is it like you've obviously wanted to go on and work in agriculture, but have you still got to learn the cat side, the horse side?
Yeah. That like from the start, like you're doing basically vet school. Other countries will do it where you specify at one point, usually kind of for the fourth year. Glasgow, Edinburgh, in the UK, you're learning everything, so that when you have your final degree, you're ready to go and do whatever side of veterinary medicine you want. We at Glasgow, we were able to choose a couple of modules, so like a couple of month-long, 4-week modules where we were able to specifying what we wanted to do. So I was quite fortunate. I did one on farm animal, so that was a month, and then I did a month in Morocco as well, where I worked with the equine side of things. So I worked with horses. So that was a great month. Like you're working in Africa, like in Morocco, like some like really kind of rodeo kind of outfits.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, we did our 6 hours went out there and did that, and that was just like basically just you're almost a qualified vet at that point, and just like having to go at it, and it was good. But yeah, so you get to like, once you get towards the end, you get to like pick and choose a bit more what you want to do. But up until that stage, right from first and fourth to fourth year, you're doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to take in. Like there's like trying to remember everything's quite difficult, but yeah, you get there in the end.
What do you think's best, that way, or the sort of way in other countries that you can specify earlier?
I think you're better learning everything at the start, because as a lot of my friends have changed what they wanted to do once they graduated. I think you learn so much when you graduate, and you learn so much about yourself.
Yeah.
I think if you choose at university, your home's quite sheltered, and if you decide, I could decide I want to be a farm vet, and that was me, that was my choice, and that would be you for the rest of your career. Whereas at least we get the ability to have a good skill level in each one, and then you kind of develop them there. You could argue that I think if you selected it earlier on, you'd be a better vet when you graduate, but you learn so much. There's so much to learn in your first year anyway, that you can mould it yourself.
No one's.
It's all about your first job as well. Mould you up.
Yeah, definitely. No one's getting a vet day one out of graduation and expecting perfection though. So having that, I think, is a wee bit of connectivity issues. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, like they're not expecting.
I've got you now.
Perfect. Yeah, we disappeared for a second there. That sort of having everything makes much more sense, and then you've got 40 years to decide where you want to go, Yeah, I agree with that. And do you know, you've kind of reminded me of something, jumping back to the quite a lot of American students in your course. In my masters at Glasgow, there was 23 of us, and 3 of us were from Scotland.
Yeah.
And I was aware it was because of that, but I hadn't actually really thought about that too much.
There's a master like at the start, like they come in as postgrads, so they have to do a 4-year course before they can even start a vet course, whereas we come in as like 17, 18-year-olds. So at the start, we were probably out like most nights during the week, and we're very hungover in lectures, and they're obviously paying such high tuition fees for it. They're taking it so seriously, but it wasn't until 3rd and 4th year there was a good kind of link amongst the students, and actually a lot of them were kind of great guys, and like there was some really like it was really interesting to hear their side of things and how they've done it coming across. Kind of big change in culture as well, but I think a lot of them loved coming over here and kind of doing a course over here and then going back home. So
right, it's like the change. I don't know if you actually heard prices, but when I did my year in Glasgow, it was 7,200, and I got 5,750 covered. So I spent about 1,500, and they were certainly guys from China were spending 29,000.
Yeah, I think the value for us was I think honestly the university for each Scottish student got 1,800. I think it was from the government for UK students, so like in English or Northern Irish, I think it was like 9,000, and the Americans were paying 25,000. So it was like you can see why they to fund it. That's what route they go in.
It is nuts, though. I mean, when you look at it that way, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really good to have that free education, but is that a fair way of doing it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I would just like to quickly interrupt the show for a minute to give you some extra information on our primary sponsors, A-Plan Rural. A-Plan offer bespoke cover for farms and estates the UK over, and will give you tailored insurance for anything on the farm, from your old workhorse tractor that's been around 20 years or a fancy new and exciting diversification.
The only side of things, wage. Like, I mean, American wages are so much higher, but they have to be. So, like, a lot of our friends in vet school who are American, they're like earning massive money, but then are working very hard to do it, and just always having to pay that off. Like, most of them are all on loans from the bank and stuff to do it, which they're paying interest, and it's.
I can't imagine many folk pay them off before they're 50. I mean, it's huge.
It's massive. It's almost like having a mortgage over the top of your head, like doing
sure.
it. You have to be really committed at that stage if you're making that decision to do it. Like, I think if you asked me if I was 18, if I wanted to go away, if you can be a vet, but you've got that hanging over you for the next 20 or 30 years, then it's a massive decision to make. You really need to want to do it. Especially moving countries well to do it as well. That's a big ask.
And they've sort of had 4 years, so it's almost like a 9-year.
Yeah, 9 years. And then paying flights to get over here, going back and forth to see family, like a massive undertaking. So I don't even appreciate how lucky we probably are. Like, how lucky I was. Just Glasgow is like an hour up the road. And easy as you like.
No, absolutely. And it's a nice wee campus, the vet school. I did 2 modules there. Really nice. Yeah, liked it a lot. Tell us about, you've graduated. What's next?
Yeah. So we basically, when we're at vet school, we do a lot of placement out at different practices, and I was quite fortunate to get around the country a wee bit. Did quite a lot back in Ayrshire, did some in Lanarkshire, and then I came down to D&G a bit as well. So did some in Castle Douglas, Stranraer, and Lockerbie. And just coming to Lockerbie, I really clicked with the practice, really got on really well with the vets. And I mean, the area down here was great for what I wanted. There was a really good variety, a lot of really good progressive dairy farms, but also a lot of sucklers and sheep as well. And then we even got, like, you go into kind of towards Langham as well, you're almost into the borders, and you've kind of quite good like kind of even Galloways and Blue Greys and stuff as well. So like you go from like mega dairies up to the hills and like kind of good hill farms as well. So there's a bit of everything down here for me. And when I I graduated in 2019, started in September, started off as a fully mixed vet, and I did a bit of everything. So worked away doing small animal, equine and farm animal. And then just over the first couple of years working, I just worked towards just being a full-time kind of farm animal vet. So at the moment, my kind of like makeup would be about 80% farm animal, and then maybe do like 15% of horses, and do maybe like a bit of small animal as well when I need to cover things. But it's a busy practice, which was part of the attraction. Loads of good farms, nice clients. So I decided to come down here from an early stage.
And everyone that's there is just great. At
the moment we've got a really good team at the moment. There's been a few vets back and forward since I started, but yeah, we've always been quite fortunate to attract like good vets, but also good company as well. Like really kind of sociable people coming back and forward. But I mean, it's quite nice at the moment. We've got a really good team, so like quite a sociable team as well.
This always seems to happen with vets at the start. They sort of bounce about quite a bit. Is that just because you're not getting the right practice, the right work, or because it doesn't work there permanently?
There's a couple of aspects. I think the main one is finding the right practice for you when you start, because there's different support networks in every practice. Down here at Lockerbie, like it's a busy practice, you are supported, but there is a big expectation. You go out and do it yourself, and then phone for help if you need it. But just if you feel confident, go for it. That works for a lot of people. Some people don't like that as much, and I think that's absolutely fair because everyone learns at their own speed. Everyone's got different confidence levels. But some practices will be a lot more supportive. Some people might feel kind of like too supportive in terms of like just want to go out and do it themselves, but they're always having to take someone with them. So I think it's finding the practice that suits your learning curve, but knowing at the same time you've got that backup there if you need it. Yeah. So like I was very fortunate. I was kind of left to get on with things, but also knew I had some really good vets behind me if I needed a hand with anything, and the support would be there. I think another aspect as well is because there's a bit of a shortage of vets. There's always other job offers. There's always people looking for vets. So it's almost the grass is always greener as well.
Sure.
If you have a bad first year as a vet, then it's very attractive to go somewhere else if you want to. So I think that's an aspect as well.
The sorry, the sitting at you're sitting at 80% sort of farm animal base.
Yeah.
Is what's the sort of breakup roughly of people graduating as vets? Because I assume most go to small animal.
I think there's a big change towards that. That's probably where the majority of jobs are. So like a small animal kind of side of the business. There's when you go into the cities and stuff, obviously it's all small animal, and even rurally as well, there's always that demand. So it'd be hard to say. I'd say probably between 65-70% probably go small animal, and then the rest will be split between equine and farm. Most people try and get a mixed job to start off, just so they're doing a bit of everything. But the difficulty with that is depends on the area you're in. If you take a mixed job, I mean, just maybe like outside London or something, you're very much doing small animal during the day and covering the odd bit of farm at the weekends. Whereas, quite fortunately, in Dumfries and Galloway, you've got a really good mix of both. So it's location makes a big difference in that as well. But yeah, there's a lot more going to small animal side of things.
And is the practice you're based at half and half, or what's that sort of? You're obviously 80-20, give or take.
Yeah, it's probably split majorly between small and farm, with a bit of equine as well, probably about sort of 15% equine. So we've got two full-time equine vets, not including one of the partners who'll do a fair bit of equine. And then we'll maybe have 10 or 11 full-time farm animal who'll do a bit of small and a bit of equine, and then we'll have maybe 8 or 9 small animal vets as well. So it's a fairly reasonably sized practice. Probably the fashion at the moment is going towards more specialisation. So traditionally, most people are mixed vets and they're about everything, whereas now everyone's starting to go towards what they prefer. People are sort of expecting a specialised vet now. Like clientele are more expecting if you're taking your dog or cat and you're expecting to see someone who's doing small animal all the time. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, everyone was expected to be a mixed vet. So that is definitely changing.
I think that's a movement that every industry seems to be in. People want the best at what they're doing.
Everyone wants an expert when they're paying for a service, and I think that pushes it. They don't want someone who's doing a bit of everything. They want someone who's dedicated to that profession. So I think that is where that comes from. Yeah.
I just imagine there's someone turning up to look at a dog or a cat, and they're talking about the fact they were at a cow last week, and they'll be thinking,
"Oh, well, it's great." Because I'm not long back from New Zealand, and they are like the vets would like rock into the practice in a boiler suit, take their wellies off the door, and just rock into like consults to see like a dog or cat, just like no cares in the world. And that was normal there. Whereas doing that here, you wouldn't really think of it.
No, you wouldn't. No, that's quite strange. That's actually a point, that the partnership thing, that's quite a big thing in veterinary, isn't it? That's sort of like, is that the goal? Is that the target, or is that not always the case?
I think when you go into it, I think a lot of people are going to aim for that side of things. The industry's probably changed quite a lot from the last 20 years, where traditionally you would start a practice, work for 5 or 10 years, and then buy yourself into the practice to be a partner. What's changed is there's a lot of corporate companies now, which I've bought up a lot of companies over the last sort of 10 years, and I've got a major share of the market. And that's probably inflated the price of what practices cost. So there's different ways of looking at that. You can go down the route of working for a corporate and being a kind of practice director, where you'll be sort of financially rewarded for like managing the practice, but you're not actually in ownership. We're still an independent practice, which I think is a good thing. And the guys in charge at the moment are trying to make things a bit easier so that kind of younger vets can buy in. So we can move towards a kind of trusteeship, where like 51% of the practice is owned by a trusteeship, but it makes it a bit more affordable to actually kind of buy in the long term. So that would be over time. That would be the kind of goal, if you like.
No, absolutely, that makes sense. And how many practices is there? There's a few, isn't there?
Yeah, so the main practice is in Lockerbie, and that's always been this kind of traditional where the practice has been. When I started in 2019, there was a new one opened in Dumfries. It's the Mary's. It's a really nice practice. It's really well facilitated, and it's mostly geared towards small animal, but we do run a lot of farm out there as well. And then we've got some kind of traditional what we call branch surgeries, which are open only 7 hours during the week, and we cover Annan, Langham, and Moffat. So we cover a fair size of an area between Dumfries and around Dumfries and Galloway.
What's a sort of, maybe not day, that's ridiculous, but a week in the life of you, like all the year round? But
it's a bit of variety one time a year. So during the week, quite often we do obviously we run a lot of dairy farms. Well, offer a service to a lot of dairy farms, so we're in there quite a lot. A lot of farmers will be in every once a week or once every 2 weeks. where we're doing like fertility scanning, so scanning for pregnant cows or seeing cows that have not been seen or not been serviced. So, like today, that's where I was this morning. I'm scanning dairy cows. While I'm there, I'll probably see a couple of sick cows, blood samples from calves, follow that kind of stuff up. We're just coming out of springtime at the moment, so we've still got a lot of cows calving, a lot of sucklers. So our mornings are generally fairly routine, and then it's just trying to like, the days are always fill up so quickly. It's like doing emergency work, seeing sick cows. Sometimes you're back and forward quite a lot. There's not often a quiet day. Doing a bit of variety. So yeah, what I love is there's a lot of variety to the work. I'd say like dairy farms are a lot more routine at the moment. We're down here because of the size of the farms, we're in quite routinely. But beyond that, yeah, it's still like when a call comes in to go into a calving, you're just having to make time to go and do it and sort of day out. So it can be stressful. Time management can be a big thing. You just don't know how long things are going to take. So if you see you're going to be somewhere by 2, like it's like something so difficult. You start calving at 12:30, you're like trying to get done. But yeah, we're fortunate we've got enough vets. If you're stuck, you can get someone else to cover yourself, which is good. But I hate being a smaller practice where like you're having to do everything by yourself and it's trying to keep people happy. But yeah.
Do you, I mean, like, I don't word this. Can't be that hard to word. Yeah, well, I guess, do you have a favourite time of year?
Oh, springtime. Springtime's a favourite.
Is it?
Yeah, like I really enjoy calving cows and lambing sheep. I think that's part of growing up that I really enjoy doing. You're going into a kind of a problematic scenario and you're trying to find a solution to it.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. Yeah, that's good. And then you're getting a nicer weather. Cows are getting outside. It's nice. And I say that side of the work's really good. Summer's great as well. Winter, I think, just weather-wise, cows are housed. Weather's horrendous, short days. Yeah, you're working outside and it's cold. But like, once you get into spring, it's quite nice release.
And how oh, that's terrible. That's such a good question. Oh, it's so good. And then you mentioned about spring, and I thought about lambing time. I don't think I'm going to remember it. That's very annoying. Oh, not to worry, it couldn't have been that important. So yeah, sort of got it. Remembered. How does on-call work? Is it a day a week? Is it how's that sort of spread out?
We're quite fortunate. We've got a pretty good rota. So our on-call is busy, but we do one night a week. So I do at the moment a Wednesday night. So that's your on-call with 2 other vets, and you're covering small equine and farm. Quite a lot of practices will have one vet on call and have a backup if you need it, whereas we share it out quite evenly so that if you do go to a calving or a lambing, you're not having to worry about your phone ringing and going somewhere else. Someone else will pick that up for you. So that works really well. So at the moment, we're one night a week. Through springtime, it all works between 1 and 4, 1 and 5. And the rest of the year is 1 and 5 weekends. So you're only on every 5th weekend. We'll do Saturday shifts as well between that, covering Saturday mornings for routine stuff. But yeah, one night a week and then one late night where you're working till 7. This time of year, I mean, you don't finish at 5 every night. That's just part of the job. Like if you're called out to call it 4:30 and that's it. You could be late finish, you could be back at 8. But yeah, you just accept that as part of the job if you like.
Every job's got times of the years, that's the case, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You did a bit of travelling lately.
Yeah.
So went to New Zealand. What was that like?
Class. So yeah, managed to get out to, so one spring finished here last year, our busy period with me and Chloe, my girlfriend, who's also a vet. We went out to New Zealand. So we went out there for a calving period. I was working as a vet out there, did that for sort of 6 months, following them from calving into their repro work. So did that from June till December. And then Chloe, she fancied doing something different. So she went to quite a big dairy farm and was kind of on farm there, did a lot of kind of calf rearing, calving cows and stuff as well. So she did that for a while. But yeah, it was great, like great lifestyle out there. It was good to see how a kind of different side of the veterinary industry as well. Just obviously very seasonal out there compared to here where we're calving all year round with dairy farms. So it was quite good seeing that and how things are done on kind of quite a big scale.
Did you do any non-veterinary travelling?
Yes, you did. So once we finished, I think finished work in December, and then we did a month traveling New Zealand, Australia, went to Cook Islands for a week.
Oh yeah.
And then we did a bit in Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Laos, and way back. So yeah, managed to pack a lot in. So kind of made the most of it while we're out there. So yeah, it was a hot January, February, and then came back here to a really wet, cold March. So March was a really long month. Been back in the rain, in the cold.
Yeah, you're sort of used to March coming and you're like, oh, it's still raining, but it's a bit warmer. But if you just came from that.
Yeah, come back from that. The first couple of weeks were really it's quite hard going. There's a few times I was looking at flights back out, but as I was saying earlier, it's now we've got April, May, the sun's out and life's good again, but March was not good.
What was your favourite part of the journey?
I think being settled in New Zealand. So you were only there for sort of 7 months, so we made the most of it. We did we managed to get a lot of skiing in during the winter. I really like skiing, so doing that every weekend. Ski slopes were an hour's drive from our house in Christchurch, just south of Christchurch. Getting to a lot of rugby games, getting just outdoors in New Zealand was class. So really just enjoy the culture over there. And then I think we managed to get, because we're so far out in New Zealand, we're while we were there, we was able to the Cook Islands. Because it wasn't really that far compared to Cook Islands, middle of the Pacific. It was unreal. Not that touristy, so it was just middle of nowhere kind of paradise, if you like. So it was great to see. Just kind of great wildlife and beaches and stuff. It was so good.
I thought it would have been quite touristy. There you are.
Nah, I think it's so far out. So I think everyone kind of goes to Fiji, and then we were we were looking at flights, and we seen kind of cheap flights. And we're well, this will be different. So we got there, and it's one road around the main island. It was just dogs running loose everywhere. Not much infrastructure at all. No no Wi-Fi, no service at all. Middle of the ocean. It was
dogs running loose, no Wi-Fi, no service. It reminds you of Darvel.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Do you know that must have been quite surreal? I mean, I don't know how far it is from Australia, but or was it New Zealand you flew from?
New Zealand we flew from. I think it was a 3 or 4 hour flight from New Zealand. So
just of nothingness.
Yeah, just when you look yourself on a map, so if you went to Snapchat maps, you're just in the middle of nowhere. And then we got a flight from the main island to one of the rear islands, and I was even more remote. There was 200 people lived there. And it was just nothing there. So it was worth seeing. It was totally different. Somewhere we'll never be back to. But nightlife wasn't great. There was a few nights we were out trying to look for pubs and stuff. And we got a bus right around the island, and got one pub which closed at 7 o'clock, and then got the bus eventually got back to where we were staying. And we're oh well, that is a nightlife in Rarotonga. And then we made the mistake of trying to get drinks on a Sunday, and very religious out there. So we were chased out the hotel that we asked for drinks for blasphemy. So it's just a world.
I guess you're not in a place like that for that, though, aren't you? I mean, just the views, the serenity as well would be pretty. Quite
reminds you a lot like Aaron, doesn't it?
Well, it's pretty busy. Too busy sometimes. Do you know, it's quite funny. I was speaking to Amy Budge, and I was filming for the episode, the most recent episode, just filming with her last night. She was talking about diversification. She was like, I've got to be able to get some money out of these pesky tourists somehow. And maybe start from not calling them pesky tourists. I don't know if that would endear them too much, but do you see yourself doing any other travels like that anytime soon?
Oh, I'd love to. We loved it when we were doing it. I think we left New Zealand in December, did 3 months traveling out a bag, and 3 months in a row is long enough. After that, we're needing routine and needing a bed. But I mean, me and Chloe just bought a house, so I can't see it financially happening anytime soon. So maybe in 3 or 4 years we maybe manage to go somewhere. Asia was great. That's another place I loved. Went to Laos, which again not quite as touristy as Thailand, and it was lovely to see. So I think I've always thought Sri Lanka, somewhere like Sri Lanka would be nice. Somewhere I'd love to go and work somewhere do a bit of work out there at some point as well, but I don't know how that'll happen. I managed to do a month in Morocco when I was at university, and it was total culture shock, in the middle of nowhere in Morocco, and it's quite intimidating when you start, and then when you get into it, it's really rewarding. So I don't know, something like that would be great at some point. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but it'd be great. And even New Zealand, I'd love to go back to New Zealand as well. Really loved it out there. So we'll see.
And Chloe's effect too. So is she similar to you at the minute? Is she doing similar things or?
Yeah, fairly similar. Chloe graduated a year after me at Glasgow, and she went down to Northumberland, which she loved it down there. It was a great bit, but maybe just not quite as busy agricultural wise. There's a lot of beef and sheep farms, but as a vet, didn't have quite the all year round work dairy farms give you. She was very seasonal, so she decided to come up here in I think late back end of 2020. So she's been working here with me. So she's a very similar role in the practice, doing quite a lot of farm work. Maybe does more small animal than me, But yeah, gets quite involved with the farm work as well.
Yeah. I'm aware of 2 practices down there. Is it Black Sheep and is it Fold? Fold?
Oh,
No.
I don't know about that one. So Chloe worked for Al Northumbria, which would probably be historically a bigger practice.
Right.
And they got bought over by a corporate, and I think that's like where Black Sheep came from. And then there was another one, and I think Cheviot Vets as well. So
Right, okay.
yeah, there's a few kind of good different practices out there. And Chloe loved living down there. I love, like, Northumberland's a great part of the country.
Yeah.
And probably could have seen ourselves there, but just didn't have the same biz that we had at Lockerbie. So that's probably the attraction was to here.
It's quite a nice community in this area, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice bit. It's like, I think everyone seems to think it's like really far away, but it's really not. It's just down the motorway. It's like 45 minutes an hour from. Well, it's an hour and 5 minutes from when I leave Lockerbie to get home, which isn't really too bad. But it's a great bit. Like, there's loads of stuff down here. It's well connected. Like, you're not far from the Lake District, Carlisle, trains to Glasgow and Edinburgh. Like, I really enjoy it here.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Marshbank Bakers, big highlight.
That's here.
That was
And do you know one thing that does require a mention from Lockerbie, and I'm not just talking about the statues of sheep, is that the butcher's shop is amazing.
Yeah, it's a great bit. Yeah, the butchery. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, in there quite a lot. You spend an absolute fortune in there, couldn't you? Like, you just go in and you're like, I have that and that and that. So.
Well, I took my mum and dad one day because like Dumfries's class, but if you're trying to show someone like a good day, there's not like that much to do if you don't want to eat all day. Exactly. So I was like, I wonder what Lockerbie's like, not really been before. Took them down and we went in there and they were like, I've got to get steak pie for the guy that's watching the dogs and whatever. God, we definitely spent 100 and something in there. Like, it was bloody good, like really.
There's a lot of good like local businesses and stuff. Like, there's it's great. Like, you try and support those bits as much as you can because they make a great job. Like, I think they've won a few awards as well this year, like just for what they're doing, which is great to see.
Is that Carlisle's, that one?
Yeah. So they'll be clients of ours as well. Yeah, they do a great job in there.
No, excellent. And have you ever done sort of young farmers or anything like
that? Yeah. So I probably did quite a lot with. I was Chris Road's young farmers at home. So I did quite a lot, probably from like 15 years old upwards. Probably found that once I went to university, I probably found it quite hard to keep up with it. So I probably did a lot of sports stuff when I was like kind of up to about 18. And then once I went to university, I found it really hard to get back for it. So still did quite a lot socially, but probably didn't do much with the club itself, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of my regrets from like university is I probably wish I'd done a bit more young farmers, a bit more stock judging and stuff. And then probably kind of fell away from it kind of 4th and 5th year at university, and then came down here and was just started to kind of get into it, and then kind of COVID hit and that kind of stopped things. And then probably similar to yourself, probably COVID kind of finished up, and then probably quite involved in Lower Nifsteel. So probably see myself as being getting a bit too old for it, but like still enjoy the sports, like enjoy playing football and rugby for them, and getting back into stock judging as well. So saying that, you're probably, what age are you, Wallace? You'll be similar.
26, yeah. I think
26, yes. I've just turned 27, but
yeah,
I think my hairline is making me look a bit of an old man in a always football tournament. So yeah, it's kind of coming to an end.
And the opposite side of things, this part probably makes
up, yeah.
You know, I've actually been noticing this is receding quite a bit as well.
Your hair is nice and thick, whereas mine is quite fine, and it's like going back so quickly.
It grows back too bloody quickly. This was cut to about 2 weeks ago. It's ridiculous how quick it grows. It cost me a fortune on haircuts, genuinely.
Yeah,
I spend 60 quid a month on haircuts.
Oh, mine's just not that at all. But I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, when I started working as a vet, like a lot of people complain that like you go out as a new vet, like you're just being really young and inexperienced. But I think my hairline gave me made me look as if I'd been like working for a couple of years. So it helped. It helped when I graduated.
So I do plan at the end of the episode and asking if you have any tips for folks getting into veterinary. So you'll be saying shaving this bit and
just give yourself a look of experience when you start.
Do you know we could speak about veterinary and whatnot for forever, I'm sure, John. But there's one thing I really wanted to ask you. Darvel FC, obviously, what a time for them last year.
Story of the season. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, I think there's they are probably the Man City of Ayrshire football. So you can take that as a good thing or a bad thing. So they have Brownings and Bakers, so they'll do the Killie pie, which I think is now the Kilmarnock pie. Yeah. They've put a lot of money into it. So they've got like unreal. Changing rooms are like neon lights, blue lights, Darvel FC insignia on the floor. Like the setup they built is great. And I think it's not real. I don't know if it's a football fairy tale because I spent probably quite a lot of money for a league. They're getting like boys who are playing in League One and League Two down to play in the West of Scotland League. But fair play to it though. And but I mean, the result against Aberdeen, when they beat Aberdeen, doesn't matter how much money you spend in the West of Scotland League. That's a massive result. So I was on Magnetic Island in Australia when that game was on. So I was watching it at 8 o'clock, I think, in the morning. We were getting a ferry back onto the mainland, and I was sitting watching it on my phone. So I think I was probably the only person watching that game not in Ayrshire or not in the West of Scotland.
I was going to say, I can't imagine there was many folk on that boat watching it anyway.
But, it was great, a great story. And it was just, I was hoping, like, I was coming back when I think the semi-finals would be on. So if it had been in Falkirk, I'd have been there. I'd have been in the semi-final, but I missed that one, unfortunately. But I've always been a fan of Kilmarnock FC, but like Darvel, like, see.
Oh, you've got to, like, that's, absolutely, yeah. So if they got the final, would that have been like when who was it? Is it Wraith or Dingwall? Or was that Ross County?
Yeah, Ross County. Ross County.
They just said Dingwall just emptied for the day. Would that have been the case?
Like, I mean, if you got everyone, I think Darvel, I don't know, it'd be like 5,000 people in Darvel or something. So you'd be like fill one, half a stand at Hampden, I suppose, wouldn't you? Like everyone away in it. So it'd have been a great story, but I don't know. Hopefully they kind of fell off a wee bit in the league this year. So I think it's like it was so hard for those teams to try and get into the league structure. I think it's like really hard to get promoted. So I think if the money keeps going into them, they'll do fine. But the worry with that is if the money disappears, then they've got a long way to fall back down. But yeah.
Well, maybe not quite the Man City then. Maybe more someone like who's had money ploughed into them and done nothing with it.
Gretna a few years ago, Gretna were like that. Gretna went all the way up to like Premiership and they were like non-existent. But, like,
well, they did a Scottish Cup final against Hearts.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Just money moved to it.
Yeah, that's even if it is driven by money, there's something really nice about it. You know, just seeing
a small team like that going all the way there, like So that was I just got to miss that game against Aberdeen, but you never know.
I mean, like something like the Leicester one was kind of nuts. Even though they were top for the last 6 months of the season, like you were like, this can't happen. This can't happen. But it wasn't a money ploughed in deal. I guess it was just clever. But anyway, we got into something completely different there. But I had to ask a man from Darvel about that this year. It couldn't not have happened.
There's not much good things to say. Oh, Darvel was a great bit. Like we went to his primary school in Darvel and it was great. But I mean, people have their opinions about Darvel, and probably Darvel FC is probably one of the highlights of Darvel at the moment.
I think every little sort of rural town in Ayrshire has got that sort of name, hasn't it? It's just, and I don't know if that's just each other causing that name, you know.
Good bits and bad bits, but those wee towns,
yeah. So it just bought a house. I take it the there's no sort of major plans for one, jet setting, or two, taking a job anywhere further. Chloe, no.
We sort of jumped into it, So I'm meant to be at home at the moment, and then my Wi-Fi was cut off today. So I set my Wi-Fi up to move tomorrow, and then I went home to start this, and then there's no Wi-Fi, and I was like, Sky have like cut me off. So moving tomorrow. So I think it'll be quite a stressful weekend, and next week will be quite busy moving things across and stuff. But we decided, we obviously came back from travelling, decided we could think about buying a house for the next couple of years, but we thought we better just go for it and like get started. So it's been a big learning curve. Like we've fortunately had a really good like solicitor who we know his partner and got us in touch, and he's been really good at kind of like taking us through the process, because like, it's a massive thing when you're buying your first house. Like everything's kind of new to you. You've also been through that experience yourself.
All right, need to throw that in there. Done it twice, mate.
Good investment. But it's like when you haven't done like a law degree or like a financial degree or anything like that, it's a big learning curve. So like it's good to have someone keeping you right. And we decided to go for it. Like big moves.
It's an interesting one because like I wouldn't class myself as an idiot. You and Chloe are obviously not, but it's stuff that, I mean, when I bought it the first time, PhD student and a lecturer, like clearly not idiots either, but I knew about 2% of what we went over. Like, it's, you should learn this stuff, not as in depth, but bit more at school level.
100%. Like, because like I say, like you think you're quite switched on, and you start speaking to some of these like lawyers and stuff, and it's like a lot of it goes over your head. But I say we were quite fortunate. Our like lawyer was like took his time and actually spoke us through it, and we learned quite a lot off him, which was great. He had a lot of time for us, which really helped. But yeah, like you could easily get yourself in a situation if you didn't know what you're doing. But nah, it's been. I say we really enjoyed living down in Dumfries and Galloway. I always thought I'd end up back in Ayrshire, back in Lanarkshire, but like time's disappeared. Really enjoyed the job, enjoy the area, and I say it's not far. It's an hour from home for myself, and it's the same for Chloe and Bigger. So like it works really well. So yeah, it's good.
And the thing is, I mean, like even though it is a big thing, you're not entirely tied somewhere to bought a house. Like there's definitely a tie, you know, but it's a fun but exciting time, and all of these things. I mean, I've just set up self-employed recently in the last month, and I'm like, I even said to myself, I was like, I don't need an accountant. How hard can it be? And then I got like 10 minutes in, and I'm like, I need an accountant. This is very hard. Tricky time, but it's quite exciting. It's very exciting. So is that the first thing you've bought? Yeah, it's first time.
First time I bought a house, yeah. And I say like, it's just been, or like we could sit on it for a couple of years and not do it, and then you wish you had. So I wish I bought a house like 2 years ago when interest rates were lower, but what can you do? So,
nah, but see, everyone says this, and you hear folk on, like, I was going to say the news. I don't watch the news, but I'll try and pretend I'm fancy. Like talking about the fact interest rates have thrown through the roof and whatnot. Time to do it was then, and prices starting to decrease. The way I see it is, I am not a good saver, and putting it into a flat or a house is a good way of saving, and it's there, isn't it? So, and
I think as long as you budget, you know what you're paying for, know you can pay, then it's absolutely fine.
That's
it. Works its way out.
And the whole idea of paying rent is just harmful.
Like the rent prices down here are huge. Like I think everything seems to have jumped so much in the last couple of years. I think everyone's want to put the D&G action. Everyone's want to move to the countryside. So like house prices and like rents went up so much. So it just seems so much more sensible paying a mortgage than paying
100%.
Paying an estate for an expensive rent for a farm bungalow. So
I mean, definitely a sidetrack. I didn't expect to go down, but the rent here are insane. I mean, like this flat, I think it's quite funny. There's a vantage point in this flat. You can see the whole place. Like it's a mousetrap. It's tiny. Yeah. The mortgage is, I think, 270. Yeah. I'm overpaying for obvious reasons, but I can rent this out for 650.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Like we were in Australia trying to to get a flat or a house sorted out for when we came back, and we were like applying for like houses, and there was like 40 people going to see them. And we were obviously like in Australia.
Yeah.
And like we had like no chance. And even then, like they're offering, it was like £700 for like a 2-bedroom house. And it'd be like no cooker, no fridge, no washing machine. And they were like just charging silly money. So yeah, that kind of didn't force our hand. But we're like, nah, it's a time to buy something. Like yeah, definitely. And I just say like we'll probably see ourselves as being here long term, but I say like veterinary has got a really high dropout rate of like people not wanting to do the job anymore. I think you have to make the job work for yourself, and I say we both really enjoy it at the moment. So like you might as well make the most of that, settle down when you can. Things can change in the future, but if you're enjoying it, then kind of go for it. So
no, absolutely. No, you're listening, John. It's good crack. As I said at the start, it's always quite fun to have a chat with someone you know anyway. But sort of to hear some other things and sort of go into nitty gritty of stuff. So it's been a pleasure having you on.
No problem.
Hope you've enjoyed it yourself.
Hope someone listens.
Oh, I'm quite certain they will. It's not even just for you. It's such a massive podcast these days.
Just rolling in it, Wallace. Rolling in it.
Well, let's not go.
Is that your second or your third flat you're sitting in at the moment? You going on?
That's my what? Sorry.
Second or third flat you've bought now?
No, it's my second property to buy. But I think you know better than anyone that the first one's still not my ownership. Anyway, there's still 2 questions to ask. Let's not pretend that I'm more well off than I am. I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry. There's 2 questions we end every podcast with, and they are: where do you see yourself in 5 years? And if you have any tips for folk getting into veterinary, what would they be?
Yeah, so 5 years' time, I reckon it'll still be still be here in D&G. I think I really enjoy the job at the moment, enjoy the variety. So I think the next step for me, I will probably do a bit of further education. We get a chance to do a bit of like your diplomas or certificates where you do it probably mostly at nights, but it'll be kind of a progress over a year where you follow a few cases through, do a lot of kind of reading, presentations, and basically show yourself to be, we talk about evidence-based medicine, where you're kind of backing up your findings using a lot of like basically articles, readings to like prove what you're seeing. So that'll be the kind of next step for me, either sort of specialised in kind of reproduction in animals or just in general cattle health. So I think I'll look to do that in the next couple of years, just because I probably am a bit of a geek at heart and I see that as the next step. I think like a lot of jobs still really manual, and you do a lot of like kind of like manual work during the day, and it's good to like do that side of things as well, so you're still kind of progressing yourself knowledge wise.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be the next step. And I think, like I say, we're enjoying the area. It's working for us at the moment, so like we'll keep doing that. I think that's the important thing. I think veterinary, there's so many different aspects you can go down. You don't just have to be a mixed practice vet or general practice. It's making a job work for you. So it's like finding what makes you happy, find the right area, find right job, and right part of the industry. So I think for me, that's in farm practice at the moment. So we just keep working away and doing that, and really enjoy the clients, enjoy the area. So yeah, I think we'll be here for a good couple of years yet. Slave to the mortgage machine.
That's it.
I think tips for getting into it, like it's probably just getting as much hands-on experience as you can. It definitely probably does help coming from a farming background if you want to be a farm vet, but you can definitely make up for that by, I think even just, I was obviously from a beef and sheep farm. My knowledge of the dairy industry would be pretty minimal when I was probably growing up. So just getting onto farms, milking cows, starting off with doing that, doing a couple of shifts, it's amazing what you pick up in terms of just talking about mastitis, cell counts, service dates, stuff like that is like, can be alien to the beef and sheep side, but it's just knowing the lingo and seeing how that kind of system works. Same as like getting in stables, working with horses. I think it's all really important. It's not just about being same practice in a vet practice and just watching a vet work all day. It's about getting on farms, getting into stables, seeing different people work, and working on that kind of client communication as well, where you're working with different people. So that's probably the main thing. There's probably way too much focus in grades because you don't really need to be that intelligent to be a vet. Like you need to be more practical and problem solving. So like everyone focuses on the grades, but really having that all-rounded approach to client communication, working with animals is probably more important.
It's just the first sort of barricade, though, isn't it? It's the first.
Oh, massively is. It's just getting past that. Once you get past that, I say the exams at vet school are hard, but you get yourself through it. You don't need to. The problem with vet school is you're constantly having to get an A, so you feel like every exam has to be perfect. Whereas at vet school, you can. I say first year I scraped by. I'm pretty sure. I think it was like a good D that I got, which is I just passed, and I was just probably getting through first year. Went out way too much. Didn't really know what to expect in exams, and I got myself through it, and then it just fell in place after that, and you got on fine. But once you get past that point of school exams, you're all right. Once you're in vet school, there's the odd person, like people do have to reset exams. A lot of my friends reset exams. That's not a massive issue. It happens. Everyone learns their own time, and even resetting a year does happen as well. But once you're in vet school, generally, you see yourself to the end.
Well, that's the thing. You're leaving at what, 22?
Yeah, 22, 23. Yeah, it's been
young, like, you know.
Yeah. So it's a long degree. Like 5 years is a long time, and like obviously I'm the old Craig, Robbie, and Tom were all younger than me, and they were all working full time when I was still at university, which is so frustrating when like they're all making money and working, and you're still at school effectively. But it's worth it. And you can work anywhere in the world, really. Like Glasgow and Edinburgh, you've got the ability to go and work in New Zealand and Australia without having to do any extra exams or anything. So we're quite fortunate. We've got ability. If you wanted to work in America and Canada, our degree covers you for that. You have to do an extra exam, but you can do it. There's only so many vet schools. I think there's only like 3 or 4 in the UK, including Edinburgh, where you can do that. So one of my good friends, he is going to Canada this year. He's just passed the exam, his entrance level exam to do that. So I mean, you can work all over the world. Obviously, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America, like it's great.
It's quite an important thing you mentioned there about the fact that your brothers were like, they were earning and you were sitting there, like, whatever. It's a long process that, because I was at uni for the same amount of time as you, different. But there was all your mates were somewhere setting up self-employed and making more money than probably I still do now. But it was quite nice to then get out and pretty quickly be making similar money for a lot less hours. You know, it was quite nice.
You see it as an investment, if you like, of your time. But I think by final year I was like ready to get to work in life. Like it was like time to do that. But no, like university, some great experiences that I did in Morocco. The other place I got to go to Botswana at university for a month there. So it was like full safari, like working with like rhinos and stuff. It was class. So like it gave me that experience as well, which I would never have done if I wasn't there. So it was really good.
Believe it or not, you're not the first person who's been on the R2Kast that's worked with rhinos.
There you go.
Yeah, second. And I just kind of want to show off like a little bit here. I do this sometimes. I've got 3 things that I'm really good at. One of them is telling like what number someone is that's been a guest on the podcast.
So I'm number 110, 110, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I did have to check that, but in fairness, like I seem to know like longer ago. Like I said, Hazel Mullins earlier, she was 29, Kaz was 32, and Kate Rowell was 39, but was originally 42. I had to swap. Anyway, that's not what I was going to do. One of my other things is capital cities, and I'm going to go for the 2 countries you just mentioned: Morocco, Rabat. I never know how you said it, and then I've maybe set myself up for a fall here. Is Botswana Gaborone?
Yeah, pronounced Gaborone. It's pronounced Gaborone now.
Oh, so, it's like a wee chili. There you are. Well, I as I was saying that, I was like, I have cocked up big time.
You executed it perfectly, but like, Gaborone Airport, our bags went missing. So like, I've been in Gaborone Airport a lot. Like, we had to like bribe men to get our bags back. We had to slip a couple of $20 notes. Yeah. So like, they were just like, our bags were there the whole time, told us they were missing, and the only way to get them was like paying the right person. It's like,
so do they make quite a bit of money doing that then?
I reckon that's a bit of a side earner. Yeah, like they see the white tourists and they're like, bags missing. And then it took a day to realise actually you just had to pay the tax. So it's just those things you learn. I think like kind of in Africa, those kind of things happen, and you just have to like have extra cash in your pocket.
Yeah. No, very good. No, here, as I said, John, it's been a pleasure. We spoke off camera about how the time goes by. It's already been more than an hour. It does sort of just it sort of flies by. But no, thank you for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Good. I appreciate it.
Yeah, very good. And as I asked, and I'll ask you now, we've recorded it. Still not finished the episode yet. I'm going to ask this and leave this in. Will you listen back?
Will what? Sorry. Will I listen back?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how the first couple of minutes go. If I can listen to my own voice, that's the main thing. Like it's. It depends. I'll reflect on all the rubbish I've spoke, and I'll be like, I don't know if I want to go through that again. We'll see.
You and Chloe can sit and watch it over dinner one night. We'll see. No, here, as I said, thank you very much. For those of you listening, hope you've enjoyed another episode of the R2Kast. Moving on to the next episode, number 111, which I am actually going to be filming in about an hour's time, is with the current British timber sports champion. And as a man who likes to think they're pretty good with an axe, I think I could take him. But we'll see when I speak to him. And I think we know the answer to that is absolutely you will not be able to. So, that's the next episode coming up. Thank you very much for listening, John. Thank you for coming on. And we shall see you next time.
I hope you've enjoyed another excellent episode of the R2Kast. I just want to take this moment to quickly thank our primary sponsors once more, A-Plan Rural. If you follow A-Plan on social media, you'll see the work they're doing to really promote British farming and back our industry. It's been a pleasure working alongside A-Plan Rural so far, and long may it continue. The values of A-Plan Rural runs perfectly in line with the whole mantra of rural to kitchen, and I'm glad to have them on board. Check them out on Instagram at A-Plan Rural and on Facebook at A-Plan Rural Insurance. See you for the next podcast.